Hey guys, it's Logan again. Welcome to another video tutorial. In this video, we're going to be creating an Undertale type text box. It's going to have scrolling text and even your avatar that you want to see. And I'm going to be moving pretty fast because it's going to be a lengthy video as it is. So just pause when you need to, and I'll try to explain things as best as I can. So this is what we're going to be making. It pops up your avatar and has a text scroll. And when you hit space, it could change avatar or stay on the same avatar and your new line of text, just like Undertale. So the first thing we need to examine is we have this border. We have basically a box inside of a box. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be creating our outer box as a white box and then setting a new box inside of it as a black box. And it's going to give us this effect of a border. So, and another thing we have is a border between the window and the box, and we're going to set a variable called padding for that. As you can see, the border from the top is less, so we're just going to not use a variable for that. You can use a variable if you need to. This is just how Undertale does it, and that's what I want to show you how to do. So let's get to it. The first thing I did was import these two sprites. You can find them in the description to download. Import them in. They're just 64 by 64 sprites. When you go to put this stuff into your own game, you're going to have to do a little bit of work yourself. Refinement on the size of the box, the size of your avatars. So you're going to have to size everything, color everything how you want it. I'm just giving you the functionality. So the first thing we need to do is draw our box, or set the variables for drawing. And go ahead and import your sprites, pause the video, create an object called ODialog, and then pause the video. Or not pause the video after you create it. You won't get anywhere, but pause the video until you have those three things done. All right, so now we're going to add a create event, and we're going to actually use a script. I usually don't do big code blocks inside of the GameMaker objects. So for the description, I'm going to use initialize. And for the script, I'm going to say scr underscore initialize dialog, and then parentheses. And I'm going to create my script, call it scr underscore initialize dialog. And it's not letting me rename it to that for some reason, so I have to rename it to something else. You don't have to though. Initialize dialog box. Let's say I'm just gonna have to give it a 1 after it. It's something with an old script I had saved in here is the same name, so it's not allowing me to. I don't exactly know. And I'm gonna maximize this. All right, so now we have our initialize dialog script inside of our create events being executed from our create event. We've created the initialize dialog script, and now we need to write the parameters for our box. So the first thing we need is our padding. This is basically how much space is on the x-axis between the window and the box. So I'm going to use window get width to get the oh no, wait, not yet. Sorry. Our padding value is 50. That's just a generic number I came up with. Padding on x-axis between box and window. Okay, and now let's set the width of our box. And this is going to be the width of the window. So window get, and then we're going to use width. And then we're going to subtract 2 times our padding, so we can have 50 on each side. So we need 100 total padding. So we're going to use padding times 2. Now we need the height of our box. I'm going to use generic number 200. Seemed to work pretty well. You're going to have to change this depending on the DPI of your game. So, or the resolution of your game. If you have a higher resolution, you're going to have to increase this value. Unless you're doing it on a GUI layer, which I believe it can scale with your game. Like smaller sprites will still look smaller in the GUI layer. So now let's set the X origin and the Y origin. So our X origin is where we want our outer box to start, and we want it to start along our padding, so 50 pixels in. Our Y origin, remember, is just a generic number that I came up with that looked about right to Undertale, and that's just 10 pixels. And this is our outer box. So let's name it outer box properties. Let's say white. Okay, and then now we're going to do our inner box. Inner box properties, and it's going to be a black box. Okay, so we're going to have a border size, which is going to be that size of that white border. It's basically the distance between the outer box start point and the inner box start point. So I just used a value of 20 for that border size, and then we need the inner box width, and we'll just use the old width minus our border size. And the outer width, outer box, or wait, sorry, inner box height. Sorry, I'm getting jumbled up. I am tired, but I don't have any other time to do this, and I know this is a pretty commonly requested thing, so I'm getting it done for you guys. So we're going to use height minus border size again. Okay, so basically the width of our box is the width of our our outer box, but minus this 20 pixel border size, and same with the height. And also we need our X origin, so the starting of this box, to be 20 pixels added on to the old X origin. So we're going to use, we're going to say inner box X origin equals X origin plus inner, right, plus border size divided by 2. Okay, and same thing for the Y. And I said interbox. That's not the correct word spelling. So I copy and pasted Control C, Control V, and now I'm going to change the X to a Y, and that's it. And we are done with our box properties, and we should now be able to draw our box. Let's create a new script and call it str_draw dialog box. Let's say draw dialog, because this is going to handle our text also. So draw dialog, and then we're going to include that in our ODialog object. So I opened up my object, and you can see what I named it over here. Sorry, I'll give you time. Okay, I'm going to create the draw event. Draw dialog is our description, and let's execute str_draw dialog. That's all. And now we need to go into our room after you get this typed in and drag our ODialog object into the room. You need to make sure you're on the instances layer. And I already had this done. So you just drag your ODialog box into the room. And then we need to go to our background layer and then go to our color and change it to like a dark gray instead of black, or we won't be able to see the box. So let's go ahead and get an error when we load the game because I didn't have the create event. Okay, yes I did. Let's see what I do here. Border size, border size, border size. I didn't do border size correctly. The S needs to be capital inside my create event. So let me go ahead and try to run one more time, and hopefully it worked for you. It did not work, did it? So let's go to our draw. Oh, we made the draw script, but we didn't put it inside our draw event. Yes, I did. I'm lying again. Did I move this into the room? Instances. That's correct. Draw dialog. Oh boy, I didn't. All right, so I cut the video. I got stuck because I did not put anything inside the draw dialog script. I just assumed that it would work. So yeah, make sure that your room backgrounds is gray and you've drug your ODialog instance into the room. And then we can actually close this because we aren't going to need that room anymore. And then make sure your draw dialog script is being executed in your draw event. and then now we need to draw our box. So we're going to do draw rectangle, and this is going to be our outer box. Remember, we're drawing it first. So our X is going to be X origin, our Y is going to be Y origin, and then our X2 is going to be X origin plus width, and then our our second Y value is going to be Y origin plus height, and then not outlined. Well, I'm going to copy and paste that whole line, Control C, Control V, and then now we need to do our inner box. So we do inner box underscore X origin, that was our variable, inner box underscore Y origin, that was our Y variable, inner box underscore X origin, I'm going to change all these, inner box underscore Y origin, and then we used, what were our variables? Inner box width with a capital W, inner box width, and then inner box height, and that is our box. I should hit play and the box should be drawn, but it's all white. We need to set our second box to being black. So let's right above the second draw rectangle, we're going to do draw set color. We're going to set to C black, and then I'm going to copy and paste that line and paste it above the other draw rectangle and set our draw color to white. So every time it gets to the first box, its color's white, and when it gets to the second box, the color's black. Now we should be able to see a border around the black box, and that looks like Undertale's box. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is start doing our actual script system. So this is going to be kind of, it's not complicated, but it goes in a lot of areas. So let's create a group. Let's add a group and say handle, let's say handle dialog. And I'm going to create another group and name it dialog object. And I'm going to drag everything in there. So when you get to your game, you need to do this to make sure that that you have everything organized really well. Shoot. Reload. Okay. I don't know what just happened. That's fine. And then let's, where should we start here? So, how do I explain this? So what we're going to do is create an array. Let's go ahead and create the array. So if you don't know what arrays are, I'll try to link something down below on a description of arrays. Basically, it's a variable with an index after it that it has a sequential, most of the time has a sequential ordering in memory. So you can actually index this variable, but you can index it in different positions, and each position will technically be its own variable, but it's a way that we can tell the computer, all right, move one spot up from there, move one spot up from there, move one spot up from that variable in memory. And it's guaranteed that each of those spots are going to contain the same type. Well, not always even have to be the same type, but is going to contain a variable that we expect it to. So how we're going to do this, we have to use a for loop because we're going to be using a two-dimensional array, which means that think of there's going to be two boxes or two columns technically. I don't know how you want to think about it, but one's going to contain the image that we want for our that specific dialogue, which character we want to see on which avatar, and then the other one's going to contain the text that we want to display. So we're going to use a for loop for I equals 0. So we're going to start at index 0. I is less than 100. This is going to be our standard. If you want more than 100 lines of dialogue in a conversation, you would need to increase this. You can save memory if you know you're never going to have 100 lines of dialogue in one conversation. You can decrease it to whatever you need to. And then we're going to use I++, which we're going to increase by 1 each time. And let's set our array. So we're going to use text I 0. So our second value is going to be at 0, and that means we want to do our sprite index here, and we can set it to default -1. That's fine. Sprite index, and our text I1 is going to be our dialogue, and we can set it to an empty string for now. Let's say convo dialogue. And each line of a conversation, each display that you want to see on the text box is going to be held in one of these variables. So what we're actually going to do is just go ahead and create a script that will handle assigning dialogue. So we'll just name this str_add dialogue line. And how will we do this? Well, we'll take in 2 parameters. So let's go ahead and do at description to give it a small description. Add dialogue to our array, our text array. Probably should call the array dialogue. I'm actually going to change that. Let's go back to initialize dialogue script, and I'm going to name this text dialogue. Makes more sense instead of just text. All right, so I just changed that here. Go back to our add dialogue line, and let's give it 2 parameters. So we're going to use @param, and what are we going to take in? We're going to take in a sprite index, and you don't have to put this. This helps notate it when we're using it. So sprite index, and that's self-explanatory. @param our text, so our string text. Okay, and now this is really simple. We just do dialogue, and we're going to keep track of how many the count of dialogue that we have. So for a conversation, we're going to have separate text that pops up at separate times, and for each one of those texts, we're going to increase a variable called dialogue count. So convo dialogue count is probably what we're going to call it. So let's go ahead and do convo dialogue counts, and then comma, and then 0, and this is going to be our sprite index that we're setting. So it's going to be argument 0, because we're going to be passing in a parameter to the script, and dialogue convo dialogue counts. We're going to use ++. That's going to increase our dialogue count after this is ran, and 1, and we're going to name, or we're going to assign some kind of string to that. So it's going to be argument 1. So again, dialogue count ++ is the same as if we just did, or convo count ++ is the same as if we did convo dialogue count += 1 right here. But it's doing it in line, so we don't even have to have this line. And that's all we were going to do for our add dialogue line. So I'll let you get that done, and I'll go ahead and name the label these text sprite index. That's a sprite that we want to display as our avatar. And I will be posting this into the description after I'm done with the video, so don't worry. All right, so now we've initialized our dialogue array, and we have a script to be able to add the dialogue line. We could just add this every time we wanted to create a conversation, but then we might mess it up. So I just made something easy to use called add dialogue line. So let's go ahead and create a conversation that we want. And we aren't ready to display it yet at all, but this will just help us visualize what else we need to do. So I would suggest, if you're going to do this, have your dialogue in scripts. Don't use str_. Use something like convo. And let's say convo Leonard, did I spell that? Leonard Howard 1. You can give a description of the conversation they're having, even at the description right here. You could do at description. Howard and Leonard fighting fighting about burnt toast. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, it's actually pretty easy. All we have to do is use our add text to convo. So what we're going to do is use str underscore add dialog line. That's what I named it in this one. And we're going to assign it a sprite, and you could have an empty sprite if you wanted. Sometimes in Undertale it doesn't show an avatar because it's a generic message. And in that case, you would just assign, you could have an empty sprite up here or just -1. I think that would work fine. And assign it that, and it wouldn't show an avatar. So, but for now we're gonna show Howard. So I'm gonna use showard, and then use, now we're gonna assign it a text. And in Undertale, they start the beginning of a line with a star. And we're gonna say Howard and Leonard fighting about burnt toast. So Howard says, Leonard, did you burn the toast again? And then we're gonna give it a semicolon. And then we're gonna do str underscore add dialog line again. And then we're gonna say Leonard. He says something back here. Wasn't me, man. Are you sure you didn't put it there? And then let's give one more dialogue line. I just hit copy and paste for Howard again. And let's do, you're an idiot. All right. And we're gonna have to put some new lines in here later, and I'll show you why and how it's gonna work. Okay. So now we've added 3 dialogue lines, and you could do this for each conversation that you want in your game. And that makes this system pretty easy to use. Okay. So now we're done there. And actually, no, we're not done there. We're actually going to have a variable called dialog num, and this needs to be reset at the beginning of each initialization of the conversation. So we're going to keep track of which one of these lines is being shown while we're displaying them, and dialog num is going to be increased. So when we're initializing a new conversation, we just need to make sure that dialog num is set back to 0. So this needs to be reset at beginning of each conversation. All right, and now we're done with our first conversation. All right, so now what do we need? Well, we need to be able to interact with this. So we have our add text to conversation finished, and now we need to initialize our text box. We don't always want our text box initialized. So let's go back to our initialized dialog and set a variable called active to false. And this is going to be, is our text box active? So we're not actually destroying and creating this object in game. When we hit space, it's going to activate the text box if it's not activated. And this could be activated in different ways in your game. If you walk into an NPC, you could set active to false or to true, whatever you needed to do. So, but in our case, we're going to use space, the space bar. So we're going to go back to our ODialog object and add an event, key pressed space, activate dialog or scroll text. So scrolling text is actually going to be the same key. So what do we need to put inside of this? Basically, we're just going to use if not active. So if our active is set to false, we're going to set active to true. And do we have convo? No, dialog num. Okay, so convo index is going to be 0, and I'll explain this in a second. And then we're going to set conv hello there. I guess we should do our convo index to be, it needs to be set at the beginning of each conversation also. So let's just put that in the conversation script. So I went back, dialog num and convo index are both set to 0. And I'll explain convo index in a moment. back to dialogue, back to the space. I'll give you another look at it. All right. And now we need to add something to our step event to scroll our text. So we're gonna execute a script just called display scr_display convo text. And this is gonna be another script that we're gonna add under our dialog object. And again, I like working with scripts so you don't have to keep opening up the object. So display dialog text. And that is going to be our script. And this should turn yellow if we, should be convo text. Should turn yellow. There we go. So we're good to go. And we're into our step event. So how do we scroll the text? Well, we have access to our full string that we wrote in our array. And we need to display it character by character, so like per step. And there's ways to slow this down, and if y'all need to see that, I will make another video. But basically, we're just going to every step add one of the characters in the string to a string that we're going to be displaying. So what we can do is do if we're going to have a current character index. This is the index of our current character that we want to add. So we're going to use character index or char index is less than string length. Remember, string length is going to be the length of our the actual amount of characters in our string that we're displaying currently. And remember, the string that we're displaying is going to be our convo index and 1, because remember, 0 is the sprite index. We're not displaying the sprite index, we're displaying the convo index. And then we actually have to use +1 because of the way this is indexed. This will ensure that we display all the characters in the string. And let's set our sprite to display. It's going to be another variable we initialize later. And obviously, this is going to be the sprite we want to display. We're going to grab it out of our text convo index, which is our current line in the conversation, and 0. Remember, that's our sprite. And then we're going to do string to display equals string character at, remember, we're adding it, sorry, it's not equal to, we're adding the current character that we're at in our big string. I'll give you a rundown going through our dialogue in a second. So we're getting our character at, obviously we're going to use convo index again because we haven't changed it, 1, because that's our string. And we're going to increase our current character index after getting the value from it. So we're getting the character of this string at this position, which we're keeping track of, and then we're increasing it by using ++ after this entire thing is ran. Then current character index is being increased until this goes to false. And then what do we want to do when that goes to false? Well, if we don't have any more characters, we want to increase our convo index to go to the next line. So let's go back to our convo, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this. So what we're doing is this is going to be convo index 0, right? This entire line. And then we're starting at character 0, and we're adding this character to a new string that is being displayed on the screen. The next step, this empty character is being displayed on the screen. Then adding L, and then adding E to this new string, and then adding O, then adding N, until this entire thing is taken up. And then we're checking, oh, there's no more characters to display. Let's increase our convo count. So we move down to the next line, and then it gets our new sprite and does the same thing again. Oh, we're increasing our convo count, moves down to the next line. Okay, so that's exactly what this entire block is doing. So let's say we're at the end of our convo line. We haven't went down to the next line yet until we hit space again, because we don't want it to automatically scroll to the next line. So now let's do a keyboard check. If keyboard check pressed vk space. Then we want our convo index to increase. Remember, that's that'll move us down to our next line. And we want to set our string to display back to nothing, so we can restart the whole process. And the same with our current character index, because it's no longer going to be 50 or whatever. It's going to go back. We'll set it to 1. Remember, it's the way that the stuff is indexed. Starting at 1 ensures that we're on the first character. It's kind of weird. And then we want to do a check after this. So what if we're inside of our our conversation, then, and we're on this one and we hit space and it increases to a line we haven't added, we'll get an error for the, well, we won't get an error actually for our index. It won't display anything though, because at that index that we set an empty string and an empty sprite. So it's not going to display anything. So we need to check if we've went through all the conversation, and if so, we need to set our text box back to not active. So we just do if convo index equals dialog num, which we haven't created the dialog number, count. Yes, I believe we have actually. Let me make sure. I told you this stuff, even convo dialog count is what we want actually. So if we're above this convo dialog count, then we need to exit out. So convo dialog counts. All right, then we just set active to false. Equals false. Okay, I'll give you 3, 2, 1 to pause this. And that should be the end of that event. And I'm actually going to move combo text here. Put combo outside. I just reordered some scripts. Okay, so again, what we did here is go through each character, add it to our string to display, and then when our characters have run out for that string, we start checking for our space key to be pressed. If it's pressed, we increase our convo index to try to move to the next line, and if our convo index is equal to how many lines we have in that dialogue, then we'll set our active to false to make sure that we don't spill over into an empty string. So now that we have that, we need to initialize our different variables. So what do we have? We had convo dialog count equals 0. Number of lines in a specific conversation. Then we need to set our sprite to display. This is our avatar, equals -1 by default. So you can set this to like a SPR empty and just have it as an empty sprite if you wanted. And this is going to be avatar to display. And then we're going to set our string to display to equal 0, or equal empty string. Conversation line to display. And then our convo index, which is our current count, towards our dialog count. So I'm actually going to put it under our dialog count. Convo index equals 0. Current index towards our convo dialog count. Basically, this is the max dialog count in a conversation, and this is our current dialog count in a conversation. Okay, and also, okay, we already set active, and that should be it for that. Let's see what else we're missing. We have our step event set, our draw event set, our space event set, our create event set. The only thing we are not doing at this point is actually drawing our text on the screen. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to need some new variables. So let's go back to our create event, our initialize dialog event, and let's make a new comment and say text dialog display properties. So we need the start position of our text, the start position of our avatar, maybe a scale for our avatar to make it fit in the window bigger. So I'm gonna do an avatar scale equals 2. So scale, we're gonna scale our avatar by twice its size. And sprites x origin, actually I'm gonna name this avatar to make more sense, equals inner box. We're gonna have it offset from where our inner box is, x origin plus 15, and avatar y origin equals inner box y origin plus 20. And you're gonna have to mess with these values depending on the size of your sprite, the size of your box, and that's totally up to you. There's ways to get the center of your sprite and the center of that box and put them together. If you want a more in-depth one, I'll do a longer tutorial. This one's already gonna be long, so. All right, so now we need the origin of our text. Let's do text x origin equals inner box x origin plus 100 plus, actually, x origin of our text. Maybe doing it from the avatar's x origin, avatar x origin. X origin, that makes sense. Plus, let's see what I do here. Let's just do this for now. I didn't do it correctly, so I don't want to spend too much time going over it. Basically, what you could do is get your avatar's x origin, then get its width, add its width onto it, and then add your offset that you want your text to be. But we're going to use just plus 100 for now. Let's do plus 150 and see what that looks like. And then let's do text y origin equals avatar y origin plus 25. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Avatar y origin. Oh, inner box y origin. I'm sorry guys, I'm a mess. Told you I was tired. Inner box y origin plus 25. If this is too hard to follow, I'll try to make another one when I get some more time. Okay, so now we have our text and our avatar positioning, and we just need to apply those in the draw dialog. So what we're going to do is, let me make sure I'm not missing anything here, wasting time. First, we need to set if active. We don't want to display our box unless it's active, right? So we're just going to use if active. We're going to put everything inside of that. I just tabbed all of that out. And now we need to draw we got our rectangles, our 2 rectangles, and we need to draw our text. We need to set its color, draw set color, see white, so it contrasts with the background. Draw text. We're drawing text at our text x origin, text y origin, and then what are we drawing? We're drawing our string to display. Remember, that's that one that we're adding a character to each step. Easy. And then let's draw our sprite. Sprites, we got to use extended, so, well, yes, use it extended just in case we need to use other attributes. And the sprites to display is our sprite. Subimage, I'm just going to use -1. If you want animations, you'd have to set up a variable for animation. You could even use just image index and just set the sprite index to be this object. The sprite index of this object to be whatever avatar you want to display. There's a lot of ways to do it. And it's at our sprite x origin, sprite underscore lowercase x origin, sprite underscore lowercase y origin. Oh wait, this was our avatar origin actually, not sprite. Let's change sprite to avatar. That's why I wasn't getting a pop-up. Avatar xy, and what else? Shoot. Then we have our x scale to be avatar scale, y scale, avatar scale, 0 rotation, see white for our color, 1 for our alpha. Okay, I moved pretty fast through that. Hopefully that makes some sense though. And I feel like it's not going to work, but all right, so I'm going to hit play. And key pressed, space, unknown function, convo, hello there. Is that what I... Oh, y'all probably yelling at me like, why did he type that? So this is going to be the conversation you want to initialize. So, got to sneeze. Okay. So I'm going to use convo Leonard Howard 1. And anytime that you wanted to activate a new conversation, this is how you would do it. You would set the text box active to... you would check if it's not active, and if it's not active, you'd set it to true, and then you would just do whatever conversation you wanted to see on the screen. So you could have hundreds of these, and just when you wanted to activate that conversation, you would execute the script or the conversation script. So now I'm going to try to hit play one more time. And I'm going to get another error, not set before reading it. We never set our current character index. Did we ever reset it? Let me go to display combo text, current character index. We reset to 1, yes. So we need to just set in our initialize script this exact line, current char index equals 1. Initialize dialog. I'm going to put that under everything. Current character index of string to apply to string to display. And I'm going to hit play. Probably get more errors. Index a variable which is not an array, which string length, and I use text. So this is why I should optimize this before I started recording, and I apologize, but I didn't have any more time. I have to go to school soon, then I have work, and then I'll never be able to get this out. Okay, so let's see. Remember, our array is set to dialogue, but I set it to text. I believe in our add dialogue line. Nope. Where did I set it to? Maybe in our draw event. Let's see. Text origin. No, where did I set this? Text up here, dialogue. So sprite to display should equal dialogue text. Or dialogue, I'm everywhere. Change text to dialogue in this. And then also here, dialogue. Because I accidentally put text. I'm confusing all of you. And let's hit play. All right, as you see, it's not active. When we hit space, it activates it. And there you go, you have displaying text. We need to resize the text though and give it maybe a font. So let's go to our fonts and create a new one. And I use FNT for my font shorthand, and let's name it dialogue. And doesn't matter. I don't really know what to use for the type, but I'm gonna use consolas. And I'm gonna increase it to 28 just to show you guys what it looks like larger, and make it bold and no anti-aliasing. It's gonna give it, I don't know how it's gonna look. Let's see. And then we need to go into our draw event, draw dialogue, and we need to set our font. Draw, set, fonts, FNT, dialogue. And now let's see what happens. And I'll show you why we're gonna have to add new lines. And you could make this automatically happen. I could show you how you could. You see it goes off the screen. There's ways to add a new line automatically. But if you're using a, I forgot the name, monospace, I believe, font, then you'll know exactly how many characters you could have at all times if your box is always going to stay the same. And then you could just do it yourself. So what we could do is we just add backspace in to create a new line. And then we need 2 spaces actually for these 2 spaces so the text lines up correctly. And it's actually pretty cool because without these 2 spaces, if you were just to do this, you couldn't have that, and you wouldn't have readable text inside your script file. So it's actually kind of cool to use a star in front of it. And then Let's do a new line here, maybe. That should be good. And then maybe after didn't, a new line. And then you're an idiot could be on one line. And now let's run it and see what happens. Did you burn the toast again? Wasn't me, man. Are you sure you didn't put it there? Oh, I didn't put 2 spaces, and you see that's what happens. So I'm going to put a second space. And you could see I could probably fit more text on there, but yeah, you could execute any conversation script you wanted. You're an idiot. Text box goes away, waits for you to hit space again. And that's really similar to Undertale, and I hope this has helped you. I know it was super confusing. I had some errors, a lot of mistakes. I might try to remake the video with a slightly more intricate system if you guys wanted or were interested. And I hope this helps you in your endeavor to create an Undertale type game, or even implementing any kind of text into your RPG. So if you guys like, please subscribe. I will be making an RPG series like my platformer tutorial series after I'm finished with the platformer series, but I'm not going to abandon that because I'm really enjoying it and I think it's going to be a super cool game, and if you're not following it, you should be. So I'll see you guys next time, and like I said, like and subscribe. Thank you.